What do soldiers think of war? Everything you want to know coming right up. Stay tuned. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. I'm Chris, Jules, Julian, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts Liz, Lucas, and Chris.
Hi, you're right.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
What do soldiers think of war? Everything you want to know coming right up. First thing that I think most people have is an idea of what war is due to the influence of media, due to the influence of films, and maybe you might know soldiers, or maybe you might know of war stories, or you've read some books in regards to all this stuff. So what you're creating in your mind is like an idea of what you think it might be. But you know, Chris and I have served. Chris has done 9 years. I've done 8 years in the British Army, Royal Anglian Regiment, and we've both seen what I would say a fair share of pretty much everything there is to do with being an infantry soldier. For those of you that don't know what infantry soldier is, it's the frontline troop. We've got Liz and Lucas as well, and they're going to be asking us a few questions, and Chris and I are going to be answering openly and honestly about things we're happy to share. But before I do that, just want to say a few house rules, okay? You cannot change anything unless you're willing to understand it, and you cannot understand it unless you're willing to explore it. A good debate doesn't get ugly. We may talk of things that make people feel vulnerable. Beliefs held sacred may be challenged because of life experiences. We're not trying to make people wrong or incite a riot, but simply explore. Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. Let's go in with expectation versus reality. Liz, I think you touched on it before we started recording this episode. What was it you wanted to mention about that there?
Just that I think that sometimes when people go into forces, their expectation is, or what they think they'll be doing and how they think it will be, is very different to the reality of the life of a soldier.
Yeah.
Especially the younger, the younger soldiers that sign up.
Yeah, Chris, at what age did you join the army?
So I was 18.
Okay,
yeah, 18
same.
I joined, yeah.
Yeah, I was 18 too. And you know what Liz just said there. What's your take on that?
Well, I knew when. So basically, I had an older brother already in the Royal Anglian Regiment, and I also had a best mate. So I knew that what I was kind of getting myself into in a way. I also knew that once I got through training, I'd pretty much be deploying to Iraq not long after I joined. You know what I mean? So I mean, I didn't know too much about Iraq, but I had a good idea of it.
Yeah.
What did I expect when I kind of joined? I was kind of, like I said, I was kind of told that you're gonna get beasted. It's gonna be hard. Keep your head down. Don't answer back. You know. I actually got told off a lot for being a bit of a grey man actually in training.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for not speaking enough. And obviously, you know, when you join the army, you know, they want kind of sheep, but not quite. They don't want too many lions. So, yeah, I used to get told off for it quite a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because they want people that have got a little bit about themselves, but not enough to start thinking that they're the chief, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. My expectation versus reality. In my mind, for me, I just wanted to be a machine. I wanted to be absolutely beasted. I actually thrived off. I wanted someone to beast me. So bring out the machine in me. I know that sounds crazy, but it was almost like a fascination. I was inspired by movies and films in the past, and I thought that's where I need to go to become the person I wanted to be, which was trained and like a machine, like a little bit cold, a little bit hard, you know, and a little bit tough. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be that person. So joining the army for me was what that would have been. You believe all the good that can come with that until you experience it. And yeah, to some degree, a lot of it is very fulfilling. But then as time goes on, like, you know, and you serve and you go to war, after when the time happens where you need to process everything you've been exposed to, your vision of a dream kind of became a nightmare that you now have to live with the rest of your life. And that there is my take on the expectation versus reality. If I was told the reality before, and if I actually had a chance to speak to me, who I am now, or if I could meet a soldier and he could be brutally honest with me, I may have thought twice before joining the infantry. I'm going to say that because not all soldiers experience what we experience as infanteers.
Would you say that it was falsely advertised in a sense?
That's a tough one. I think in some ways it is, because sometimes, some ways they kind of tell you that you're going to go and do this and go and do that, but it doesn't always work that way. So, in other words, they'll say, oh, you get to go and do these courses, go and do adventure training and stuff all the time, but that doesn't always happen. It's just usually soldier, 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 They can't really, they can only try to tell you a certain amount before you go on tour, You're not going to know, like Jules has just said, the experiences that you're going to come under. You don't even really know if you're going to even be able to deal with those experiences. They can only train you to a certain level.
That's it, yeah.
So in that sense, they don't really lie to you. They're going to, before I went to Afghanistan, they basically said to me, you're going to get shot at and there's a high possibility you're going to die. And that was that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly. I will have to agree with that. So the expectation versus reality of war, not so much being a soldier now, to be brutally honest, I actually didn't really think too much on those negative outcomes. I only really thought about positive outcomes. I never took the time to really try and think of the worst case scenario. It wasn't like that for me. So my expectation was, I'm going away, I'm going to be deployed to a foreign country, but I'm also going to be surrounded by my band of brothers. It's not like I'm going there on my own. So it was quite familiar. It was quite comfortable. And then that was that. It's when you get there, this is what it was for me. After landing in one of the biggest camps ever, Camp Bastion, so big, it had its own bus service. It was a very, very eye-opening moment when I landed in my first fob. When I landed in my first fob, we were getting shot at. The helicopter was getting shot at. We had to get out that helicopter as quickly as we could and get into the fob as quickly as we could. And it was that welcome to Afghan, like you're being shot at as soon as you land. That was a real eye-opener for myself. But again, it didn't really sink in because the helicopter was getting shot at. And even though I was in it and getting off it, it weren't like I was being shot at. It was weird. It was hard to explain. Very different from my first contact when I actually got shot at. They was trying to shoot me. It was very different. Like it was very, very scary. You hit the deck. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how big or tough a person you think you are. When bullets start coming at you, you hit the floor for some reason. You get down quick. You get down. Now you're always trained to do like return fire. So you'll find cover, return fire, but targets don't shoot back. So like when Chris mentioned about the moment of truth, almost, what do you do? I put my hand and say, I am so grateful that in the moment I had a section commander who had seen war prior. So he knew exactly what he was doing. And that's the man we needed in that moment, because it was myself surrounded by a lot of other young soldiers. He kind of shone a light at what we're supposed to do. And so, yeah, we took a bit of courage. We got courage influenced by him, and you do fight back, because if you don't start fighting back, they're not going to stop. So you got to show your strength and force. But yeah, that was that for me. When the targets shoot back, flipping shit yourself, mate. You shit yourself. Yeah.
Well, the saying goes, you either laugh or you cry. I'm not going to lie. The first few times I was shot at, I laughed for about 5 minutes.
It's surreal. It is surreal. Like,
yeah,
it is surreal. I've got that laugh or cry on my arm. I've got this whole sleeve on my left arm, my army arm, and I've got that exactly the comedy and tragedy faces because of that reason. 100%. Yeah. All right. So people be like, you can't prepare yourself for what it's like, and that's so true. But let's talk about training for deployment, because I remember, Lucas, you mentioned.
Obviously, I've never had any experience of war, and I just see what the media publish. So I just wanted to sort of know, if anyone else listening as well, if you're thinking about it, what sort of is training like? What is the toughest thing that you guys did in training? Is it physically demanding, or could the average person off the street manage to do it? Is it like more mentally, or is it more sort of physically?
It's kind of both, in depending on what you do. So basically, probably the hardest thing I did in training was 3 weeks in Kenya. I did it twice, but the first time I did it, the first time I went to Afghanistan, it was all sort of live firing. And you go to a place in Kenya called Archer's Post, and it's red hot there. It's bang on the equator, and everything that lives or grows there, it's just horrible, basically. And you literally do a live firing range, which is the targets will be a certain distance, and you have to attack those positions, and you'll probably do about 3 positions. You'll do that, drink some water, and then you'll tab, so march off with all your kit again, sort of another 4 to 5 miles, do another range, then do the same thing again, and then you do another one again. So you do like 3 in one day. So as you could imagine, it's red hot, and you've just done 3 live firing ranges and had to walk to all of them. And we kind of did, I think first week we sort of acclimatized, and then the other 2 weeks we did that. And that was real tough. I mean, the guys were just dropping like flies through heat, exhaustion and everything, but it was to prepare us to go to Afghanistan to fight the Taliban, like head on. So it was probably the hardest training that I did in the army. It wasn't the hardest thing I did, but it was definitely the hardest training.
I have to agree. Yeah. So army physical training, there was a saying that you can be fit, but you'll never be army fit. And once you're army fit, you're fit for life. I've seen athletes train, and they train to a very high level in their specific field, but they never train to the extent of a soldier. A soldier will not stop. That's the bottom line. They just will not stop until the mission is done, until the job is done. That is it. And I've seen a lot of soldiers go above and beyond in like almost like the bumblebee effect. How can it possibly fly with those tiny wings? So at the time, I think I weighed about 11 and a half stone, yet I was able to carry a bloke who was 18 stone, fully kitted, and myself on my shoulder for a good distance. I would say at least 200 meters before I had to swap with someone else. And the funny thing is, it could have been 200 meters, could have been 300 meters, could have been 4, 5. You keep it going, that man is getting carried, and we won't stop carrying him until we get him to where he needs to be. So as far as like casualty extraction goes, it is physically demanding, but also mentally. Like, you have to be in a state of mind that sees no failure. You have to be trained to be fearless. And that right there is I think part of the training, the psychology behind being a soldier. You can't just get anyone off the street and ask that of them. They haven't gone through the process to be mentally resilient enough to go through pain that you've never experienced. It's not possible. And that's part of the process of basic training. You're not allowed to leave basic training until you can do minimum full kit 8-mile tab, which is a tactical advance to battle. And that's basic, that's basic. Once you join your battalion and your regiment for pre-deployment, like Chris says, you go to Kenya, you're expected to do that 8-miler and then some, and then some. And this is it.
Training sounds just as traumatic as the actual deployment.
Yeah. And the thing is, Liz, we had attachments join us, even, the TA. It's very, very hard to put your trust in someone who hasn't gone through all of that process like you have, or with you. In actual fact, you kind of start to think they're a bit of a liability. I've even seen in training exercises, firsthand, God's honest truth, I've seen unprepared soldiers. I've seen one shoot himself accidentally, cleaning his weapon system.
Oh my gosh.
Shit drills and, negligence, fatigue. He wasn't built the same as us. And he shot himself in the stomach. He's now shitting out of a bag for the rest of whatever time. And this is an eye-opener of, we're not even out on the ground yet. I've also seen, when I've been in Bastion, same detail, negligence, heat exhaustion, just fatigue. Someone done real bad skills and drills, ended up shooting someone else because their weapon system is called runaway gun. So basically it was a machine gun. It just starts firing off itself because the barrel expands and the bullets just keep going. So yeah, I've seen him shoot someone else. This is all before we've gone out. Yeah, it's all before we've gone out on the ground. Like, training for deployment is not only physically demanding, it is a necessity that you are so trained up to not be negligent. We haven't got time for fuck ups. That we've got enough stress with an enemy that want to kill us. We don't need to be weak in a sense that we let our standards slip, you know? And part of that process is putting yourself through the worst conditions you can imagine, like really, really tough, really hard conditions. But I'll tell you something that gets you through it. This is the main thing, right? Brotherhood. Brotherhood gets you through that. I don't care what anyone says. It's something you can't teach, you can't buy. It's a thing that just forms when going through adversity with someone else. You could have this with Lucas. You play semi-pro tennis. Imagine you're playing doubles and you've gone a whole year of training. You and your partner, whoever it is, you've gone for a whole year. You've gone through blisters, rolled ankles, heat exhaustion, fatigue. You want that win. You want it so bad that you go through all the ranks, you go through all the tournaments, and then it's finals day. It's finals day, and you're both waiting to go center court, and you look at each other. What is that look?
That's the look of like, let's go, like this is it.
That's exactly it. It's brotherhood. Yeah. You've built this bond because you've gone through that adversity together, and that's what you get when you are a soldier. You know, it's that's what gets you through, because you know everything we've been through, everything we're going through right now. Everyone we get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm quite interested because I've obviously gone through the sport and performance route. I've done the training that way, but my training sounds like a walk in the park compared to your training. I mean, I've played in Barbados, Dubai, places that are like ridiculously hot, but I've never had to go through something that sounds like what Chris was describing, where you'd have to go to a live range, walk to another one, and you did that for 3 weeks. So, I mean, I struggle playing a tournament, a match every day for a week. So doing that for 3 weeks, honestly, hats off to you. It's my training for shame.
I used to pour bags of sugar in my mouth and bags of salt just to keep up the salt and the sugar so I wouldn't cramp up. But yeah, it's just staying ahead of it. Like, you know, so basically you can't afford to dehydrate. If you feel yourself dehydrating, it's too late. You're gonna start feeling it, go lightheaded, and then before you know it, you start being sick, getting diarrhea, all that kind of stuff because the heat gets to you. So it's just staying ahead of it, you know. Keep sucking. We used to have like a camel packs, just keep the straw on the side, and then you just suck on that, just gradually, like just keep sipping, you know.
And did you learn that? But did you learn that whilst you know, did somebody else teach you that? Because you probably didn't know that before, did you?
No, you kind of all just discuss it, you know, like Jules said, there's a brotherhood, you all sort of talk about it. But I'll be honest, I was sort of in a platoon of like 30-odd guys, and there was only like 4 of us that weren't sick. and didn't have bad guts. Like that's what I'm saying. It was you was a little bit lucky to not feel the heat and the exhaustion at the time, but they wanted to push us through it. So because it's even that training was nowhere near still as hard as what I did on certain operations in Afghanistan, but it certainly prepared me to a certain way. To be honest, once you go on tour and you go under some of the contacts I went under, it's just adrenaline that's pushing me through it at that point. It's not even physical, it's slightly mental and having the guys around you, but it's adrenaline just pushing you through constantly, you know.
Are you literally counting down the days till you get to go home?
Oh, yeah. I suppose when you get your R&R, so you get your 2 weeks off, you do that. You know, it's funny you should say that, actually, because the first one I did in Afghan, I did an operation for, I think it lasted about 4 or 5 days. It was called Operation Gartsy Gar, and we spent 3 days in contact, basically, every day, just in contact. I think we covered like 50k of ground during that time period, and we were just chasing Taliban the whole time, just trying to push them out. And then I went on R&R after that, so it was well worth it because I just got on a helicopter and I was like, "See you later, lads." Yeah, it's mad actually, because talking about that, when I actually came back, I actually got turned away in Yates's for a beer, so that was quite hard. But yeah, it's all madness.
I think, Chris, we experienced different tours as well. So you did Herrick 6, which was 2006, 2007. At that time, I just signed up to the army. I just joined the army, so I'm in basic training, whilst you're on that tour.
At that point, yeah.
And so a whole different type of tour, because my first tour was Herrick 11,
Yes.
So that was like roll forwards 2011? No, 2009.
It was 2009 till 10.
2009 and
wasn't
10. Winter tour, Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
Shamooli's up.
Yeah,
In the sangers.
yeah, got in trouble for that, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. Different type of tour. Definitely. Had
It was completely different.
But it's definitely different because of the conditions. It wasn't summer.
Yes.
It wasn't summer. It
It wasn't summer, but they also, by that point, the Taliban, I'm just going to be honest, the Taliban had took such a kicking off us.
Mm.
You know, it'd never been done before in Afghanistan. And we really, you know, we were probably undermanned, really, for the ground and the Taliban we were pushing. That's what was mad about it. But we'd given them a bit of a kicking. And by this point, they went, this is why you always need to try and stay a step ahead of them. That's why we trained so hard. But they were changing the way they wanted to deal and try to beat us. And that was obviously an IED situation. They made it harder for us.
Yeah, so we was faced with the IED threat. And yeah, it was definitely different. Now, I just want to say, to make it, give people a perspective of what we're dealing with. So like I said, 2007, roll on 2 years. If you're born in Afghanistan, you'd be Taliban. This is what I tell people all the time. If I was born in Afghanistan, I'd be Taliban. So let's not pick sides here. Let's not go down the route of we were the good guys, they were the bad guys. I want to say this straight up as a soldier and what we think of war. We invaded another country. Now, I want to put you in a perspective or ask you, how would you feel if where we're from the UK, literally overseas, landed, set up a base camp, right? And then soldiers just started deploying, walking our streets. And they're only looking for a certain amount of people, right? It does definitely put things into perspective, right? It's like, what are you even doing here? Why don't you just go? What are you doing here? Do you know what I mean? We don't want you here.
It's invasive, literally.
Then there's people that are like, we do want you here. We actually want you here. Can you get rid of these people for us? Hearts and minds, stuff like that. Now, imagine you are the son of a man who thinks that I don't like these people here. I'm actually with these guys. Away you go and you fight. And then me or Chris puts a bullet in his head, or our unit blows him up, whatever you want to call it. We now have a young boy, let's say he's 15 years old, right? Just tipping manhood. He's now not got a dad. We've now created another enemy. So fast forward 2 more years, this kid's now 17, 18. I'm 18, 19. We're both at war. Now, because of someone else in my past, on my side, that's killed his dad, he now wants to kill me. And as this cycle continues, so do the years. And it's really, really, that's perspective for you, perspective-wise.